Thank you for taking time to attend this session. And I'm going to go a bit off script today and just let the flow lead. Okay, so thanks Microsoft for having us, first of all. So my name is Alan. So we started this journey sometime last year, not too long actually. So we are quite new in this adoption of the Power Platform. But today I'm going to share a bit of some of the deliverables that we have done so far over such a short time, and also to give a bit of indication on how easy the tool can be applied. Yeah, so I'm Alan. I'm an early adopter in the company. So, and also I sit in the business, yeah. So I'm sitting right next to the business where all the things are happening. And that's where you are able to create this system of innovation, allowing our people to create new things by just adopting the tool. And also you have, because of the proximity to the business, we are able to have great agility from there, yeah. And also thanks to Microsoft for the recognition, and I finally got got to see the Champs card, which is pretty cute. So if you are interested to pick it up, there's a bunch of it outside. So who is Schlumberger? We are actually a world-leading oil field services company. So we provide all the drilling services down to all end-to-end services, from finding the oil to extracting the oil. Yeah, so customer like Chevron is one of our major customers. So today we are pretty glad to be able to do a co-presentation. So we have about 100,000 employees across the world, and in the company itself, we are like a little mini United Nations, 140 nationalities, and we operate in 85 countries, more than 2,500 locations. Yeah, so I'm based in Scotland. Yeah, so my responsibility is Europe. Okay, so I have about 13,000 users. So today I'm going to share with you some of the journey that we go through and how we started. Right. So it's actually a very personal story. Yeah, it all started because a close colleague of ours, he had a heart attack, yeah, and left. So I got a call from the HSC manager from Europe and say, Alan, we need to do something special. We need to let our people have a better healthy lifestyle, right? And at the time, it was early 2018. We were still going through we just came out from the downturn, right? Oil field downturn. So our HSC director came to me and said, I want something exciting, I want something easy, simple, and something that I can get people to start running, start swimming, start cycling, yeah? So that's what you saw in the video. So we decided, okay, we don't have funding, you want something great, and I have no clue about Power Apps, but let's try it, right? So I spent a weekend, trash out that little app, 3-screen app, and then we run a campaign over Yammer. We get quite a successful turnout. So initially, we only targeted 22,000 kilometers, which is to run around all our offices around Europe, one circle, yeah. But we exceeded, we reached 400,000 as of end of last month, right? And that app has been so successful, or the campaign has been so successful, that it's been replicated to all other regions in Schlumberger across the world. So if you put together all the miles and the kilometers we did, it's more than going to the moon and back a few times here. So, and this is the evolution of from that simple app to this year's version. Yeah. So as you can see, a lot of the apps that we do we emphasize a lot on the UX. We want to make sure that we have the same experience for our user, even though it's on Power Apps. It doesn't mean that you cannot build the native apps feeling in Power Apps. So if you have a quick look here, we have a badging here, we have a leaderboard here. We allow users to create teams of their own to have some sort of a social friendly competition among themselves and encourage themselves to do more exercise, right? So it was for a great cause, and it was a great tool for us to deploy something very quickly, yeah? So we get a very quick engagement from all over. And in the notes that I've been talking about for this session, what I want to share is to give a bit of insight into there are various ways to make Power Apps looks like real apps. Yeah. So this is one of our many apps that actually we did for we call the control, which is promotion of our engineers. Before they go to the next level as a certified engineers, they need to present a project and they need to be evaluated. In the past, it used to be done in paper. Yeah. So, and our MD came to me and said, Alan, I need to promote someone from the graduates, yeah, for a sales position. Who can I promote? We have no clue because it was all on paper, right? And unless somebody go to the cabinet, retrieve all the forms, tabulate the result, find the top performers, there's no way to show it. Whereas I sense an opportunity here, replace the paper, fix the process, digitize it, and I'm able to, on the live, real time, able to see who's my top scorer and show my MD, this is the three names that we can consider. Yeah. So unfortunately, I have to mask away a lot of the real picture and real names because of the privacy, data privacy in Europe. So, but you can have a feel from here. It is really professional looking, nothing less than a native app, yeah? And it's all done in Power Apps. So from that, we actually have developed quite a significant number of citizen developers just within Europe. This is just the Europe numbers, 120 plus across 32 countries. And today, we have gained so much efficiency that we are able to build a quick app within 2 hours. Yeah, and we have more than 50 plus production apps in Europe alone. And time to train a developer, a citizen developer, is also reducing significantly. It's between 1 to 2 weeks. I'm able to turn a new student from school and make him or her fly and be able to do as much as I can do in 1 to 2 weeks. Yeah. This is all thanks to the community, you know. So even myself, all these wonderful things is learned from the community. I learned from, like for example, all these sliding windows and stuff. The animation within the apps was from the great source like Keith and Shen Yang, right? So I'm just like one of you guys, and just accept that I'm in a commercial environment, right? So just a quick few other screenshots just to give you guys a few nice scenes here. Some picture has been replaced with stock images, but you get the idea, yeah. So from rating app down to a very interesting one, you see there, CEO -1 appraiser. We actually have an appraiser system for our CEO to do his performance management for his direct reports on the go, yeah. And also I have a blue tube there, which looks like Netflix, yeah. But it's a video on demand targeted to audience, the specific audience. So say I'm an engineer, I push a certain content. So as we adopt Office 365, we also transform the way we communicate internally. Our communication has moved from email to poster to now video. We produce lots of video, yeah. So with that, I'm going to pass it on to Lad to continue this story on Schlumberger. Thank you.
All right, good morning. How you guys doing? I'm sure you're all well caffeinated, I hope. This is the third session of the day, so we'll be pretty interactive. So I'm Lad Laird. I'm the director of the mobility studio for Schlumberger. So it's a really fancy name for that build apps for a living. We're a big enterprise team of about 60 that builds apps for all across the organization. And we see ourselves as a very professional grade organization. So quite frankly, oops. There we go. I was an early doubter. I really was. I'm sure like many of you, my first experience with Power Apps was creating a very simple SharePoint list, clicking the Create an App button. You see a Canvas app by default. You poke around a little bit, and you go, really? Shut your laptop, move away, and say, this is for amateurs, really? We built professional-grade software, right? So our first reaction, this is about 18 months ago, was, I don't know if this is professional grade or not. In fact, Alan, in this Active Europe campaign, and you saw an amazing story of how that happened, right? That was the big wake-up call. And in fact, I still remember Ken, say hi, Ken. Ken's our Office 365 operations manager. He's the guy who does all the hard work. Alan and I just build software for a living, right? He keeps the lights on and keeps us moving. He sent me a ping on Skype. It was like, hey, what's this Active Europe thing? Is this like one of your apps? I'm like, oh, I have no idea what this is. This guy, Alan, does he work for you? I was like, absolutely not, didn't work for me. And he was like, he's saving health data in an app. What was he doing? I said, oh, I have no idea. We have to go figure it out. We need to save this guy from himself, right? We need to put some guardrails around him and some governance. But fortunately, after kind of pushing down our first reaction of saying no, like all IT does, right? We took a step back and really adopted a wait-and-see approach with a few light guardrails in place. And I think there's some real good strategy you can put in place around our default tenant. And I think Chevron will talk about the same kind of thing too, of taking things like CDS out in the beginning and making sure you can't tweet out automatically with Flow, right, from inside with our company data. But by doing that, if you like guardrails, really adopting a wait-and-see approach and let innovators like Alan go out and do and create. And I tell you, the transformation has been, quite frankly, amazing. And in fact, after driven into action, we took the step back from this, seeing what's happening and seeing just at the velocity at which teams like Alan's were building software that was impactful. You see the UI that they built, right? So for us, it was a wake-up call of, okay, this is really professional grade stuff. We have to take a very hard look at it. And that's when we really dove deep into what is the strategy around the Power Platform, the broader strategy around data. And once we started to understand what's happening with CDS and CDM and how it really aligned with a broader vision at Schlumberger of how we're seeing data, it really turned us around to where now I am repurposing my team. We're in the middle of reskilling and reorganizing really along the same lines as Chevron of how do we build a strong center of excellence that enables our citizen developers to go out and innovate and build great stuff, enables these small IT organizations to go build good stuff too, but also at the same time be a center of excellence for expertise of the pro-development side of the Power Platform. There's actually a bigger story here, though, I want to quickly tell you of why was the company so ripe for innovation. If you guys attended the executive driving change one, Nipa gave a great comment about being coachable, right? Why was Schlumberger employees so coachable and ready to really engage in the Power Platform? And that one starts back in 2014. But it was the largest downturn, well, one of the largest. There's been many, but this is probably the most significant downturn in oil and gas history. It's hard to really overemphasize the impact it was to our company and to the entire global market. We, give you a hint, at Schlumberger, we announced back in 2014 that we intended to lay off probably 40 or 50,000 people. It was more than that, right? These are our friends. These are our colleagues. These are people we worked with for years. I'm sure all of you, who's been through something like that as a company, right? If you've been through that, it's very personal. These are people you know. These are your friends. We would kick projects off, and next week the people wouldn't be there. We got so bad that if someone was in their office for a week, you're looking them up on corporate directory. They're still around, So this thing makes you very reflective, right? It makes you very reflective about who you are and what you want to be as an employee. It also makes you very coachable, right? And open for change and to understand how to be digital. In the same sense, as a company, we took the same reflective measure of who do we are as an organization, how do we exist in this new hyper-competitive environment, how do we partner with companies like Chevron to really give them the solutions they need, and we knew the answer was going to be around data. This is a great picture of the very first well we logged. So Schlumberger started as a well logging company. You put a probe down a hole, and you see where the oil is. That's what you do. That's how we started. I'm sure this guy had a couple of wires and a big chief tablet he was recording data on, but our company began with focusing on data acquisition, so we knew the future of what we were going to do was going to be focused on data. So we kicked off two big, massive reorganizations. The first one was around our products. So you see here one of the Schlumberger's land rigs. We built a global digital organization with arms into every single product that we built. This is a great example. Every single product would have a software component, a digital component, as well as a data acquisition, analysis, and with a huge focus on how do we partner with our customers to really innovate. But for us, that really wasn't enough. We were trying to not only save our own company, but quite frankly, the entire oilfield services market. It was in a tailspin, and we knew we had a leadership position, and as leaders, you have to lead in a market. So the second thing we did was a massive internal reorganization to build an organization called Operations System, which is really a fancy name for all of IT and key business leaders around business process together in an organization to build this engine of change, engine of constant change, so that we won't have to have one big transformation after another, but you have an organization that's feeding new products and new software solutions and change into your organization constantly. And there was a five-tier digital strategy around that. And if you hang with me for a few minutes, we get a little corporate-y and like, strategy-wise, but you'll see why for us the Power Platform is so important. So first of all, SAP, our system of record, all of our data resides here, most of it at least. And for us, it's key to our digital strategy. 2 months ago, we had the largest go-live in SAP history, not Schlumberger history, SAP history. So for us, it's a massive investment, but it's slow, right? Monolithic, years of deployment, right? If you guys have been involved in ERPs, and as I have, God bless you, it's fun. It's really, really hard, though. 10 to 15 years of lifetime, or we know it's probably going to be more than this, right? So on top of SAP, we built these things called digital products. These are the big monolithic products. And I have to refer back to Nipa's presentation. These are our big rocks, right? These are our big rocks. They take more than a year to build. These are our own custom software products that incorporate our lessons learned and best practices from decades and decades of being in the field service and logging wells and that sort of thing. But quite frankly, if you really want to drive innovation, and for us, we really knew we had to have data as a center to drive innovation really at the edges of the organization. We built something called Digital Studios, which is what my team is. I'm a digital studio with a center of excellence in mobility software. We partner directly with the business to build solutions directly for them that create value for them. Smaller, fast-moving teams, software in 3 to 6 months. Lifetime could be 6 months, it could be a couple of years. And for us, we really want to embrace the idea that some software should die. It shouldn't go on forever. This is how IT budgets get bloated and get huge, and we don't have enough money to drive in innovation. If a solution doesn't get a lot of user adoption, or honestly doesn't create value, it dies. If it has good user adoption, if it creates value, Active Europe, great example, right? If it has some good user adoption, then we really focus on it, and we figure out where does it belong. Maybe it should go into a digital product. Maybe it should become a part of a studio organization where it's long-lasting. But to be honest with you, in order to take, and this is also our central IT organization, but in order to take creativity and innovation to the next level, you saw the amazing things Alan's team does. They're a digital cell. They're a local, fast-moving, high-performing IT organization based in the region, right, in Europe, that can build, that's partnered with the business. They understand what the business needs are. They're part of the strategy sessions for the business, and they can build these fast-moving applications to really meet their needs. And for us, this is where the beginning of why the Power Platform is really powerful. You can see how rapidly we can deploy solutions, right? The great story of taking students a couple months out, and they're building software for a multinational company with applications being used in, 10 countries across Europe with, 800 users, 900 users in 2 weeks? That's real software. That was a big wake-up call for us, like, whoa, we have to think about this, right? But then if you look at the whole strategy and how extensible and scalable the platform is, especially around CDS and CDM, for us on the ProDev side, if we're going to act in collaboration as a COE and take these amazing products that are being built on the Power Platform and really build them up and make them enterprise grade, I think for us it's very, very amazing. And you combine that with our big focus on self-service. We have a huge initiative on employee self-service, making sure they can build their own Power BI dashboards. They can build their own Power Apps. If you want to digitize the edges of your enterprise and get at all this data that exists on all the big chief tablets and the Excel spreadsheets And the SharePoint lists, the big black hole of SharePoint lists, right? And all you SharePoint lovers out there, but it's a big black hole of data, right? It really is. If you're going to get at this, and if you want to have this dream of pervasive AI, I know that sounds fancy, but if you want to have this dream of doing things like AutoML, you have to get at this data, and you have to somehow get it aligned. So this is where our vision of data aligns directly with CDS and CDM, and we're going to be driving this forward. In fact, we're in negotiations right now. We'll talk about this in a later slide of how do we make that available to every employee so they can all consume CDS, and we can somehow get them into CDM and really focus on data for the long term. So in order to get our whole event, our whole initiative kicked off on the Power Platform, right after Alan's big surprise to all of us, we needed something to get us going. We needed a catalyst to drive awareness and get everyone on the same page. And for us, about this time of last year, we had a large multinational hackathon. 106 teams across about 30 countries. It was a 2-day hackathon, 2 days. We had some awareness built into in the beginning of it. We had, honestly, our training consisted of a couple of videos we put out. I don't know if Shane Young was even that popular yet. I don't think so, right? So we hacked out. It was two centers. We had a co-located group in India, a co-located group in the US, and a bunch of people that were virtual. Over 61 apps that were built and finished. We had top 10s, and then finally the top 3 were selected by our C-suite group. And quite frankly, it was amazing. It was amazing not only because we drove this awareness of the Power Platform, but to have non-IT people get their hands on software and the things they could create. I could spend a whole hour showing you guys the apps that were created, the things that our engineers put together. And it really showed, for us, highlighted the power of leveraging this entire organization of engineers and scientists to go build their own stuff. And quite frankly, things that were built that would never have been built by IT. You go through all of our standard bureaucratic processes, and you got to get in line and get governance and get structure and everything else. You're never going to get there. So that's why this is so exciting for me as a central IT guy, to be able to let people create and use this Darwinian approach to software creation. You want to go try something? Go try it. It's got some guardrails, maybe a few little training wheels in place, but go try it. Let's see if you get some adoption like Alan's apps have, and there's a bunch of other examples I'll show you later of other apps that have. Then we come in, and once you hit a certain threshold, you need a little governance, right? Need a little architecture, making sure you're not, tweeting data out outside of our tenant, that sort of thing, which is what worries Ken all the time. He literally had we had a meeting this morning about this very thing about one of the apps I'll talk about. So we had the hackathon. It really got us going in the right direction, a lot of momentum, but how do you maintain that momentum? Community. I'm sure you guys have heard this 1,000 times during this last few days. Got to have community. For us, it's centered around our Yammer group. This is the first thing Ken did for us. Over a year ago, as the Office 365 Ops Manager, he set up a Yammer group for us. And at the beginning, it didn't have a lot of traction, but once we had the hackathon, really had some traction. And then we had guys like Alan and the other digital sale managers who build apps really join in. And that's the amazing thing for me to see, is people helping each other outside of IT, right? We had our own champions really arise, and allowed us to really get people together in a community like we never could before. One of the key lessons learned from this, though, too, is that central IT has to play a role in that some questions need to be answered, and you have to not necessarily be proctoring it, but making sure that people get connected, the answers get answered, or you redirect them to the right place if they're not getting an answer. That's why you make a right community, and you make the data inside the community really rich for harvesting. So we had the big hackathon event. We've been driving community. We also had a big awareness campaign, multiple campaigns we waged with digital signage, emailers, meetings, all the things you normally see in the corporate environment to drive people to the Yammer, to drive people to Power Apps. So let me flash forward to where we are today. We're about 10,000 monthly active users. We have 1,300 apps, about 400 creators globally, right? 86 countries, so we're building apps in every country that we are. US, by the way, is not the biggest app builder. It's actually Europe is a big one, so is India and the Middle East. Middle East is huge for us. But what this tells you really is we got a lot of activity. But for us as a business, we really want to reinvent ourselves and be competitive in this new environment. We want to create value. So those 300 production apps, which means they have over 10 monthly active users, means something to us. And really, it's those top 5 apps I'm about to show you that we really think tell us we're getting some massive traction. And these are all apps that were not built, well, one was built by IT, but I'll explain that. They're mostly not built by IT, that have really had some dramatic impact. So the first one, Active Europe. By the way, I got to drop this hint, and Alan said it. You know why that stuff's blurred out? This is where big IT comes in. That stuff's blurred out because we realized as we're trying to get this presentation reviewed and approved that we couldn't share personal names with you guys from anyone in Europe. So good lesson learned. Great app. 1,100 monthly active users, right? That's phenomenal. That's phenomenal. This is an app that really didn't have a lot of hype, I mean, in the beginning, but now it really does. Hackathon app, another app that I wish I could spend a whole hour on. This is our first big app we built as an IT team to manage this next hackathon we're going to have next week, actually. And it's amazing to see the velocity at which we can employ software. We're developing enhancements and delivering them every day on this app to 3 platforms, right? Whether you're registering participants, building teams, linking participants to mentors, getting ideas, voting up the ideas like Reddit. It was amazing to see at which we could manage a whole initiative from the Power Platform. Next, we talked about the largest SAP go live in history, right? You got to have ticketing. This is one of the highest used apps we had. It's 800 mile now. It was about 2,000 at the time when we had a go live. And it looks simple, like a simple ticket. This is for SAP super users, a very small, tight community built to be rapid response to the SAP go live. Behind this is a really amazing flow that drives business logic and automatically creates an email with the right metadata and text. So when it's sent to our global support team, we have a bot that's looking at it. The bot automatically grabs the email and routes it through Remedy the right way so they get a rapid response. So this is a great use of a simple form with a great flow, with the right data, with a bot behind it, that now you can have, we have 2,000 super users, by the way, that get a rapid response from our technical team based in India. Next, who knew we were in the hotel business? But this is a great thing if you wait and see what happens, you get created. So in the Middle East, we have bunches of shared housing for people to come in for month in, month off. And they needed a booking and travel and baggage and all the things you have with hotels. 600 monthly active users. Who knew, right? But this is a great example of innovation by that local Middle East digital cell. And last but not least, this is by far the 500-pound gorilla of apps for us, 9,000 users a month. It's called Aurora. And what this does, and we were later on a call this morning of how do we scale this thing up into CDS and CDM, because it's getting way beyond what SharePoint can do. This gamifies the boring things of going through work and of doing HSC reporting, of doing some surveys, doing training. You log stuff here, you do questions here, it's a knowledge base, you answer questions of the day, you can recognize people. The recognize piece, by the way, is going to be a global app that we're going to go build as a central COE. We're going to take that and scale it up on CDS and CDM. But that's a great example of an app that was built by citizen developers by Digital Cell. Now it's going to be scaled up. And now for us, it's the test case of how do we work together as a COE with these global teams. So with that in place, we've had a lot of momentum. We have a lot of apps being built. As a global COE, how do you really create value? And these are lessons learned that are not only what I want to share with you, but this is our journey going forward, right? You got to keep things going. Chevron has a great example of how they do hackathons. You should listen to that. It's different than ours. Completely different, but awesome, right? Community. Got to drive community. IT can't be the only people sharing stuff. You need to let people go share and be together, right? Governance. You got to have some light guardrails in the beginning. We manage our default environment very tightly. It's to be honest with you, I'll go along on this, but the next Chevron slides are phenomenal in this, so I'll let you guys see that. Employee self-service. Let people go create. You have to have resources in place. Do some training, do some hackathons. Let people go build their own stuff. You would be amazed at what they can build, and you can leverage that as a central IT organization to really drive innovation. And finally, for us, the partnership with our digital cells and letting them innovate and enabling them with on-demand UX, which is our biggest ask, by the way, from these guys, is UX, architecture when they need it, as well as support. That's where we really want to play a great role of enabling them, not building stuff for them, but enabling them with our core competencies and our scale so they can go build amazing innovative solutions very, very rapidly. So next for us is next week, a massive hackathon. It's triple the size of what it was last year. The response has been overwhelming. We have almost 1,000 people across over almost 100 cities. It's been amazing. You can see on the right-hand side, we used a Power App to collect ideas and let crowdsourced people vote them up like Reddit to pick out which of the top ideas we're going to go address. So last year was all about awareness and innovation. This year, that's there too, but how do we go create value? How do we use a hackathon to go create value and let business teams build some apps that are actually highly impactful? So now we curated that and really focused on how do we get people hacking and working on specific business problems. It's kind of overwhelming, but we'll see how it goes next week. Hopefully next time we talk to you guys, we'll give you a good report. And finally, I want to give you a quick view of where we've been and where we're going to go. We started, well over a year ago with, only a few hundred apps that are being built. And now, as you go through the different phases, from the awareness campaigns to the digital cells like Alan's adopting them, to IT really looking at the vision, adopting the vision, and starting building stuff ourselves and driving awareness, to the hackathon we're going to have next week. You can see we're really rapidly approaching that 2,000 mark, and I think hopefully we'll get to 15,000 monthly active users in 6 months or so. And with that, I think we'll hand it over to our good friends at Chevron and Warren. And by the way, every organization has